This plane, the F-15 Eagle, was built for one purpose and one purpose only: total air superiority. It was created to combat the threat posed by the Soviet MiG fighters during the height of the Cold War in the 70s, and was the first strike plane that could detect and kill from many miles away, as well as engage in dogfights. It's still in operation today, and in 30 years of active service, it has never been beaten in air-to-air combat. It's the benchmark by which all modern strike planes are judged. The F-15 saw active service in both Gulf Wars and is now keeping the peace patrolling the skies above the west coast of America, with the Oregon Air National Guard constantly on the lookout for any threat to the US's national security.
I'm Mogas, a major in the Oregon Air National Guard, and I fly the F-15.
My name is Paul Fitzgerald. I'm an F-15 pilot for the Oregon Air National Guard.
Former airline pilots Major Dale Bennett, known as Mogas, and Major Paul Fitzgerald, known as Snap, have been stationed at the Air National Guard for 3 years. They are on alert night and day and maintain their readiness with regular training sorties in their F-15s.
The F-15 is a pretty incredible airplane, actually. Thinking about its design was in the late 50s, 60s. Came off the production line in the mid-70s, so it's been around for quite some time.
The F-15 comes in 4 versions, including a bomber, but the most successful is the air-to-air combat fighter, like those flown by Mogas and Snap.
It's a pretty big airplane. It was actually built to house the radar that lives in the nose. The airplane is about 43 feet tall, about 63, 64 feet long, and at the tail it's just under 20 feet high, so it's a pretty large airplane. It's been akin to the size of a tennis court.
As well as patrolling the skies for intruders, the pilots of the Air National Guard also carry out training exercises. Mogas and Snap are planning a simulated dogfight where they will practice locking their weapon systems onto each other.
Objectives for the Blue Air is quick kill.
Being a frontline fighter pilot is a hazardous job. Every time they fly, they may encounter the enemy and have to deploy lethal force. The F-15 was the first strike plane with the ability to take out an opponent up close or from miles away.
We have 2 arenas we normally fight in. It's within visual range and then, of course, beyond visual range. Within visual range, I have a 20-millimeter cannon that's in the right wing root of the airplane. Once you start moving into a little bit further out into miles and so, we start talking about the heat-seeking missile. And then once you get beyond that range, now you start talking about the advanced medium-range air-to-air missile that we use, otherwise known as the AMRAAM.
The real benefit of the AMRAAM is its ability to really get out there and reach out and touch someone and turn them into pieces and parts.
The F-15 has 2 giant engines producing a combined thrust of 46,900 pounds between them, capable of pushing the plane to a top speed of 3,000 kilometers an hour.
The thrust that you get out of these airplanes gets you off the ground fast and gets you to where you need to get fast.
The biggest advantage having a great thrust-to-weight ratio is the ability to power through a turn and to not only turn as quick as you can, but also to be able to sustain that turn in combat. It might take, in order to kill the enemy, it might take 3 or 4 360-degree turns in order to successfully get behind them and get into a weapons engagement zone and to either shoot a missile off or to shoot the gun.
But turning at high speeds exerts massive pressure, known as G-force, on the pilot, 1G being the force of normal gravity.
There's 5, there's 6.
When the pilot makes a high G turn, the weight of their body is multiplied by the same number.
6.5 right there.
At 6.5 Gs, a 76-kilogram pilot would feel as if he weighed 6.5 times as much, nearly 500 kilograms.
In order to be able to cope with the 9 Gs that the airplane will pull and actually sustain for a little bit of time, they give us several different pieces of equipment to help that happen. That's the combat edge vest. It fills up with air, keeps the internal pressure in your chest cavity, so the blood can actually get pushed out of your chest cavity and into your head. Most importantly is your G pants too, G suit otherwise known as. It tightens up. It also moves the blood from your lower extremities into your chest, and obviously to try to keep the blood in your head so that you can keep blood in your eyes so that you can see and think. The color goes out of your vision first. The second thing that goes is obviously tunnel vision. And that's followed by stages of going unconscious, and that's the whole reason we're trying to avoid that. You don't want to be manipulating the controls of an airplane when you're unconscious.
The pilots also wear a helmet with an oxygen mask in case the cockpit were to depressurize at high altitude. But the F-15 is getting old. During every flight, the aging aircraft perform extreme maneuvers and put the airframe under enormous stress. As a result, the planes require constant maintenance. It takes more than just a pilot to run an F-15. Behind the scenes is a team of over 30 highly skilled personnel just to keep each plane in the air. The precise age of the plane determines the level of maintenance required.
This airplane is 20 years old, and with that, the unique challenges are that the metal is always going under a tremendous amount of stress, and it wasn't designed to last as long as it has. but we continually x-ray all the metal parts and on an hourly inspection cycle, highly scrutinize the airplane for metal fatigue and even the engines for any possible signs of wear and tear that might make or indicate there could be a problem in flight.
For every hour in flight, the plane requires at least 10 hours of maintenance, including engine testing here in the Hush House. A team of engineers can remove an engine from a plane and have it in the test facility in under an hour. The skill of the maintenance team ensures that the planes are airworthy when pilots Mogas and Snap go out on exercises. No pilot wants mechanical failure when engaging the enemy at 10,000 meters. F-15 pilots Mogas and Snap from the Oregon Air National Guard are going on a dogfight training exercise. They are going to simulate shooting an intruder out of the sky by locking onto each other in a mock dogfight. Hello. Hey, Before the flight, each pilot carries out one final check to make sure that his plane is airworthy. The F-15 first flew in 1972. Over 1,200 were built, and now there are still over 500 flying on active duty.
So you have an airplane that's been around for 30 years, and still there's countries out there that are still trying to build airplanes to counter this airplane specifically. And I think that's attributed to the continual attention this airplane's been given over the years to keep it at cutting edge.
Mogas 1 and 2, AB climb to 15,000 is approved. Departure end cable indicates up. Wind 260 at 6, runway 28 left, clear for takeoff. Change to departure.
Mogas 1 clear for takeoff with quick climb and SIG and the free for departure.
Departure frequency 299.2 for Mogas 1 and 2.
292 for Mogas push 9.
By the time you get down to the end of the runway, you're doing 300, 400, 500 miles an hour, and then you can basically just take off straight up into the air. It's quite a sensation. It's like being on the tip of a rocket.
By the time you reach the end of the runway, your gear's up, your flaps are up, and you're ready to pull. You go straight up in the air. You're ready to pull a nice 7G turn straight up to go vertically. And you can get up in a hurry that way. It'll certainly wake you up in the morning.
The afterburners can push the F-15 to 5,000 meters. That's 5 kilometers up in the sky in less than a minute, reaching twice the speed of sound, but at a cost.
Anytime you use afterburners, you're going to increase your IR or your infrared or your heat signature.
The infrared or heat exhaust signature makes the F-15 vulnerable to heat-seeking missiles fired from the ground or enemy planes.
You're also using a heck of a lot more gas because it's raw fuel in order to get that afterburner working. So you have a fuel disadvantage by having to use it, and obviously you have a heat signature disadvantage.
Once they reach 10,000 meters, Mogas and Snap start their dogfight training exercise. They take turns being the hunter and the hunted. One plane acts out the role as the enemy, while the other chases and attempts to lock on its weapons guidance systems. Once the hunter plane locks on, he registers a kill.
There's a gun strike kill right there.
A strike for Mogas. Had this been a real intruder, they'd now be nothing more than charred metal and smoke. Even though the F-15 is well past its shelf life, it will continue to be the US Air Force's premier air-to-air strike fighter until its successor comes into service in 10 years' time.
I believe it still does rule the skies. There's specific airplanes that do other things probably a little better, but when you take the overall package and you talk about the overall airplane, it's still a top contender in the world and probably will continue to be until we bring the new one online.
The F-15 has proved itself in combat time and time again, but it does have one huge disadvantage. Because of its size and weight, it requires a 2.5-kilometer long runway. And this means that it can't operate from small airfields close to the battlefield.